Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Rick Peterson. I'm the current president of AITP's Los Angeles chapter. AITP is an association of IT professionals and part of CompTIA's trade association. This month, AITP LA is proud to present Managing Remote Teams. Tonight, our speakers are going to share with you their secrets and stories of managing virtual teams. We're going to start the evening with a networking session. It's going to be like speed dating. We're going to have to go through it very quickly. If we get 30 people online, we're going to be able to give everybody like 30 seconds to speak. So that'll just be a quick round the table. That will be followed by a presentation by Margaret, our first speaker. And then we'll open it up to our main event, which is the panel discussion, which should start by 6:30. We have a lot of people attending and we only have a limited amount of time for networking. So we ask that everyone keep their introductions to only 30 seconds. During your introduction, please tell us your name, where you work, or if you're in transition, and why you're attending tonight's event. I'll go ahead and start as a demonstration. My name is Rick Peterson. I'm currently in transition, and I'm attending tonight to facilitate the event.
All right.
Can you give us a quick introduction?
Yes. So hi, I'm Margaret Meloni, and I work for myself, and my goal is to help people be even the most better project managers that they can be, and I get to share quick tips with you later, and I also get to learn from the panel. So lots of good things. Thanks.
Okay, it's Mitchell Matsumura. I'm the Vice President of AITP, and my job is I'm an account executive for internet, phone, TV, and then something new, we're doing mobile. So come see me, contact me if you need internet for your business. Okay, I want to do a little
nice big fat pipe, right? We all need big pipes.
Yes, but I'm so glad that you're involved now, and you really stepped up, and we're getting a lot of new people, a lot of new members. So I'm really excited. Thank you.
I think we're all excited. So yes, I want to appreciate all the attendees who are joining us this evening. It makes it a much better event for everyone. Not just, all right, so our current board, you've already been introduced to a few folks, but once again, my name is Rick Peterson. I'm the president and publicity chair for AITP LA. Everybody here is a board member that we're going to be introducing. You just heard from Mitchell, who's our vice president. Roger, who's both our treasurer and corporate outreach contact. Carol, you'll be hearing from her later this evening. She's our programs chair and she's hosting the panel tonight, moderating that. Nilu is working behind the scenes as well. She's our programs co-chair. And we have Greg, who is our technology chair, and he takes care of our website so that you guys can do things like watch a recording of this event afterwards. All right, a little bit about AITP. What do we have here? AITP membership does provide you many benefits. The opportunity to network with other IT professionals. You get to discover career and business opportunities, keep current on industry trends, practice your leadership skills by getting involved. You have access to AITP's national network, and you have the opportunity to create long-lasting relationships. We've heard some people here that have, have been comrades over time and previous associations. It's an opportunity to do the same. So we invite you to check out the chapter and join if you're interested. I'd like to introduce Roger, who's our treasurer, and can you tell us a little bit about Margaret, Roger?
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I have a few words I'd like to say about Margaret. I met Margaret Meloni several years ago through her active participation in AITP. Margaret is a people-oriented leader and has coached people in areas such as personal branding, conflict resolution, compassion in project management, and quality of life. She's an accomplished professional with a BS and MBA degrees, as well as a Ph.D. And she's also a certified PMP, project management professional. She has taught at UCLA and UC Irvine and is a recipient of a Distinguished Instructors Award. A constant throughout Margaret's career has been strong communication skills and a passion to see other people at their best. She's also a creator of the pmstudent.com community. You might want to make a note of that. pmstudent.com is a fabulous source of information on improving your project management expertise. And there's a link, I believe, on the slide. So I'd like to welcome at this point, Margaret Meloni.
I'm here.
All right.
And then we do some sharing, and then it'll all be good. So thank you very much, and great to be here and see everyone and be seen and heard now, even better. Thank you so much. And now I want you to know, as we forge forward here together this evening, that when I'm talking about some of these tips, be successful with virtual teams, when I was working on this, I was thinking more of, for those of us who might be newer with this, I noticed in our greetings this evening that we have some people like Steve Ikeda, who has been leading virtual teams for a long time, which is amazing. And Steve isn't the only one. He was just the first name that popped into my head right now. And that is amazing. And I'm kind of looking at some of the basics for this is new, because I think in life, we went through a time where everybody was going to work from home several years ago. Some of us got to. I've actually been virtual since, I don't know, 2006, I think. And then other companies became less comfortable with it. And so they were kind of like, no, we're not doing that. And so some of us went and then the rest of us didn't. And now we all went, didn't we? And so now we're going to talk about that. Some areas that I would like you to consider would be your leadership, how you motivate your team, working to stay connected, how you communicate, and a tiny bit on technology, probably not enough to do a group like AITP proud, because I don't want to go into tools and technologies too much, but there are a couple of things I want to mention there. So that's where we're headed. And if I understood Rick correctly, then you will send questions to Rick while I'm talking, and then we will catch up with questions later. Did I get that correct?
Those are the correct instructions. Yes, I'll field
right.
those questions, send them to me.
Okay, so no offense to everybody, but that means I'm also not going to pay attention to chat. Sometimes I try to do this and chat, and now I don't have to. So this is beautiful. So let's start thinking about what kind of a leader do you need to be if you're going to be successful with your work from home team? Okay, don't be a micromanager. Like I was when I was a brand new manager so many years ago. Every time I see the word micromanager, I want to call some people up and apologize to them, truly. And you know, and they're probably still waiting for that call or that text or that email, because I know that I was horrible because I didn't know what I was doing, truly. So we don't want to be a micromanager. And I understand that during this time, especially if work from home is new for you and it's new for your teams, you could be feeling very uncomfortable. And I'm going to ask you to just relax a bit. Now, relax doesn't mean let go of everything. We don't care about deadlines. Nobody has to work. Everybody can watch Netflix during the day and do their laundry. I don't mean that. I also do not mean, get my little phone up here, texting people all day long. Hey, Roger, did you do that yet? Roger, when are you going to do that report? Roger, did you send that to me yet? Please don't do that. So that's what I mean when I say relax. Stay focused on what is important. Let's stay focused on the big goals, because patience and flexibility are going to take you a long way. In fact, those would have been, I guess, our watchwords at the beginning of 2020 had we known, right? It's about patience and flexibility. And that is true with ourselves working from home and with our team members as well. So we want to be that patient, flexible leader. I'm going to ask you to draw on your compassion and remember that at any given time, any one of us could be completely freaking out or not. And by the way, it might be you, right? Because you're a human being as well. I spoke with someone a week and a half ago. She was getting prepared to take a class, because as Bill Hackenberg mentioned earlier during our networking, we both do some teaching with UCLA. And I was speaking to someone, and she really wanted to move forward with the class. And she was mentioning that, you know, she is working from home. She's starting to go into the office some days, so she's a little nervous, concerned about that. She has a 5-year-old starting kindergarten on Zoom, and her 5-year-old, it's not like a 14-year-old where they're, you know, technically adept and they want us out of their way. And so she's recognizing that as part of her workday, she also needs to be focusing on helping her 5-year-old get through online kindergarten. So that means she needs to do her work at the end of the day. And she also wanted to take this class. She has a lot more going on in her life right now than I do. And so if she, decided to move forward with the course, that would be a thing I would want to keep in mind. Not because she gets to just get an A without doing any of the work, but I want to be careful in how I handle her. And so I will say the same thing with our people. We don't know. They might not tell us the days that they're freaking out because they might be afraid. If I tell Margaret that I'm freaking out today, she's going to think I'm weak. Or she's going to translate that into I'm not working today. So, people are concerned about how much they want to reveal during this time. So we want to come from a place of being compassionate. We want to encourage work-life balance. And if patience and flexibility were the words somebody needed to have whispered in our ears, during the New Year's celebrations, maybe self-care was another word that somebody needed to whisper to us. And some of you, my friends, my hardcore workaholics, you're not really comfortable with this self-care phrase, and you think that means it's somebody that would be about going to yoga and going to the spa. Maybe it is. Maybe self-care means taking a break in the middle of the day and walking for an hour with your neighbor, which is, by the way, what I do, and it has kept me as sane as I am before you today. Let's not make any comments about my sanity. I think I'm just as crazy as I was in 2019. We don't know. But we want to encourage that for our people. And so encouraging that for our people means talking about it when you do it, so that your people don't just think, well, gosh, that Roger, I know he's at his desk all day long, so I can't go take a walk, right? And, oh, I bet that Roger, he's not doing any binge watching of anything. I think he's working all weekend long. If Roger finds the opportunity to go to a park or go hiking, we want him to tell people. We want to tell people so that we can encourage the balance and the self-care, all right? We want to think about how are we going to make this, how are we going to motivate people? How is this going to be engaging? Some of you, I do understand, work in industries and environments where you have a lot of process, a lot of checklists, and the way that, things need to be a certain way. And yeah, by the way, if you're making airplanes and heart monitors, thank you. Because, the day will come when I will get back on an airplane again, and I'd like it to stay up until it's supposed to stay up, and I'd like it to land smoothly. That aside, we want to try not to put too many rules and processes on our people. Maybe we can rephrase this. Maybe we say, don't put too many new rules and processes on our people as they are establishing work from home. Let's be process light about that. I'm not saying no rules, but let's not freak everyone out with you must be signed on at 8:05 and then you can only go for one cup of coffee. And if you're going to go to the bathroom and you think it's going to take more than a few minutes, please put up a message. It's not your business how long I'm in the bathroom. Come on now. So let's be careful about that. Let's recognize performers in a way that makes everyone feel good about their performance, and in a way that doesn't make me feel like a crumb if I'm not really catching on yet. All right. So we want to really find a way to recognize our performers and provide regular and positive communication. And, we're in this modern world. So if you want to send people fun little GIFs and emoticons, make sure you know what they really mean though. Just let's be careful about that. And to express appreciation. And that's some fun, modern, more work from home way to let people know that you appreciate them. We're going to come back to some of that in a minute. In terms of how to make the work more interesting for people, let's allow people to do some of their own problem solving. All right, so let's not right away tell somebody exactly how they have to set up their desk, or exactly what kind of chair they have to buy, or exactly how they have to learn how to tackle their day or their work, which goes back to don't be a micromanager. Let's let people do some problem solving. You know, you want your people to be smart enough to solve these complex technical issues. So leave them alone and let them be smart then, and let them do the problem solving. Let's encourage creativity. Let's ask for tips. You know, when we get together and we have those meetings, which we should only have when necessary, please ask people to share tips. What is something you learned about your work from home environment this week? What is something working for you? What is something you will never do again? You know, like maybe it's don't close the door all the way because my cat will continue to slam his body against it until he breaks it open and breaks the doorknob and everyone hears it, for example. Maybe I'll never do that again. Encourage breaks. So this goes back also to the compassion and the self-care. We don't want to be, you know, locked at our screens. We want to let people take breaks, walk around the house, the apartment complex, whatever it is, which also goes back to, you know, not being so intense about why aren't you at your desk at 8:05, unless somebody is actually answering a customer service hotline, right? Focus on what people do, not when. That feeds to that as well. Again, flexibility, like that woman that I was speaking to, she's going to be doing her work, a lot of it, in the late afternoon and then after dinner, because she's going to see her 5-year-old through kindergarten. And then she's hopefully, you know, finding a way for her 5-year-old to be entertained. Then she's going to sit down and get to work. Then she's going to take a break and make dinner. I know this because she told me this. And then she's going to get back to work. So do I need to tell her that end of day means 5 p.m.? Can't it mean 11:58 p.m., right? Let's remind people the why behind things, especially during a time where there's so much coming at us in many different ways, and a way in which people might feel demotivated is just generally, they might have Zoom fatigue, they might have Corona fatigue, they might have other news-related fatigue type things. And so let's remind people why what they're doing is important. And find a way like this, like look what you're doing to build a community here this evening. You know, I'm guessing that, you know, for most of us, our associations, the first month or so, most of us went dark. The more ambitious ones came back online in April. Maybe some didn't come back online till June. We're finding a way. We're finding a way to build community, and you want to as well. Let's make it fun. Let's make it fun. I don't care if your oldest employee is 105, which if they are, tell me, because that's so cool, right? But if your oldest employee is 105, they still want to have fun. So how can we gamify things? How can we gamify things? Like, you know, best virtual background. And I said that, and, you know, like 2 seconds ago, Rick just changed his background. I happen to be able to see him on my screen right now. And so he just changed from his other background to a background of LAX. So let's have some fun, but, you know, safe for work appropriate backgrounds. You know, there was a group I was working with, I think we finished working together about 6 weeks ago. And they were learning Zoom. And one day when they learned about the virtual background thing, this is so funny, the next week, a couple of them, this was a class, a couple of my students, they were trolling me with backgrounds, but it was completely okay because it was so funny. And one of them, he just went all in and he figured out how to do a virtual background, and he was changing that background like about every 5 minutes throughout class. And he had crazy things from scenes from Star Wars to the dogs playing poker to a picture of me teaching the week before, so it looked like I was Siamese twins. he trolled me, and it was awesome. And we were still able to have a good class. So let's make some fun. Best cat meme, trivia. I like the online scavenger hunt. I like the online scavenger hunt. Now see, Rick has put on his mask because he's afraid I have cooties. The online scavenger hunt, you know, and some people are like, no, I want my people during working hours. Again, what does that really mean, the working hours? I want them working. Okay, then create a virtual scavenger hunt, which means you give people a list of things to find online, like old movie posters from a certain era, and you give them a list of different movies, and then they go find movie posters. And then the winner is the one who found the most of them without having duplicates of someone else. Something like that, okay? And we do that, but then if you don't want, I don't want you doing that during work hours, Margaret, I know you. You'll be off finding pictures of Casablanca instead of working, maybe. Then only release the rules for the scavenger hunt at noon. Make it a lunchtime thing. And make everyone submit their scavenger hunt results at 1:05. Bam, done. Now you don't have to worry that people are playing when they should be working. Okay, so we just see what you can do to gamify things. And this makes it fun, it makes it interesting, and it also builds team. It builds teams. And that's what we really want to do, because we want to keep that connectivity, you know? We don't want to let anyone disappear. We don't want to let anyone disappear. And yet, if I'm texting you and messaging you and calling you to Zoom meetings all day long, you're going to wish you could disappear. So we're looking for this balance, right? Where I know you're there. You know I'm here. You know I care about you. You know I trust you. And the same with the team, the same with the team. So we want to check in with one another. Sometimes we can create a buddy system. And the buddy system is where, let's say if Roger and I are buddies in the buddy system, maybe he's the first person I send a chat or a text to when I'm like having a hard time figuring something out, or I'm just like want to send a message. It's like, I can't look at another screen, please help me. Or did you find the Casablanca poster? So we might consider some kind of a buddy system or small team system to help keep people connected. Have appropriate social sharing. Again, you know, we want to be careful of the, you know, don't be putting things out there that are, you know, not safe for the workplace. Use humor appropriately. If you're good at making memes, do it. You know, like if you're my former student who was trolling me with the backgrounds, if we had more classes together, I would be asking him to create me fun stuff to use. And I would give him credit every time I used it, but see how it would provide people something fresh and fun. It would show that as a leader, I'm willing to use something fresh and fun. And even if I'm not good at making it, I'm good at asking for it and giving someone else credit. So this is a thing we can do. Another thing you can do is come up with audios and videos messages for people. So especially if you have, you know, like a website for your project or team, or some way you can maybe just put it up on Dropbox and send Dropbox, easy for me to say, and send it to people. And maybe you just send a message of the week. You know, hi, this is John Moore. Everybody, I just want you to know I'm thinking of you. Happy Monday. Here's my thoughts as the week gets rolling. Hey, everybody, it's John. Can you believe it's Friday afternoon? I certainly hope you all do not work this weekend and go find a new park that you can socially distance in, or something, you know, quick little bites, you know, quick little, we call them little sound bites, right? And in this way, we're building that connectivity. Create serendipitous encounters. You know, 100 years ago, when we were in person, because, you know, a month in COVID time is like, I don't know, 10, 15 years, something. Anyway, a long, long time ago in a land far, far away, when we saw people in person and it didn't freak us out, and by us, I mean me, we would maybe see somebody getting coffee or at the microwave or walking down the hall. And it would be that chance encounter. And in that chance encounter, I would say, oh, Mitchell, I'm so glad I saw you. I just want you to know I have somebody I work with. We have a Thursday morning Zoom session. And I noticed one of the things he said a few weeks ago was that he wanted us, the members, to get to know each other better. We have a, a really tight bond with him. And then about 2 weeks ago, here's what he started doing. He set up the Zoom session so that it will start when we join. It doesn't wait for him as the leader. And he waits, and I know he's doing it on purpose because I know him. He waits and he doesn't join right away. He lets us come on by ourselves for a few minutes, and then we talk to each other. And in this way, he's helped us create those serendipitous encounters. For example, this morning, while waiting for our leader to come on, I was very happy to tell my colleague, Jerry, who loves, loves, loves music, that I just read that Rolling Stone magazine is going to redo their 500 top albums of all time. And if we had started the meeting on time and gotten right into the agenda, I would have forgotten to tell Jerry that. And that was just a nice moment to share. So find that way to create serendipity. Let people get going early and show up after they can chat for a little bit, and let them chat for a little bit at the end, because that's part of what we're missing. In terms of communications, the thing is that texts don't have a tone, emails don't have a tone. And even in Zoom, when we're speaking, we have a tone. But again, if you factor in, we're tired, we have fatigue, we're freaked out. We want to be very gentle in our communications, very careful. We don't want to be aggressive. One of an announcement I got back in March, which is still bothering me, is from somebody I work with. And it wasn't just to me, thank goodness, but it was basically along the lines of, we're moving everything online and we expect you all to keep up and meet all your deadlines. And thanks for asking how we're doing. Thanks for caring. And also thank you for insulting us all by thinking that we would drop our deadlines. So that was not the best communication, right? So, we want to do that emotional proofreading. We don't want to be terse. Don't assume the worst if someone is quiet. It doesn't mean that they finally found out about Ozark and they're binge watching Ozark and they're giving up on work. They might be super busy. So just check, or have their buddy check if you have them in that buddy system. Don't make your team guess about what you're thinking or about goals and expectations. Have an area, maybe, again, if you have a shared area where you have like a communication area where things can be posted so that people can continue to go and look things up. But just be very, aware that during this time, communications might not land like you think they do, just like they don't to you. I'm sure the person who told us that we were going all online immediately and that we needed to hit our deadline was probably also freaking out, and maybe really meant to say we're continuing with business as usual, right? There's so many different ways you can do this. To own stock in Zoom, huh? But there's lots of different ways to do this, and you don't need to go automatically and go buy something fancy or expensive for your company. Start simple. Don't worry about the trends. Worry about the requirements of what you need for your team to keep in touch. This is really the most important thing. If you're a small startup with a team of 5, maybe you can go on Facebook Live every day. Don't tell them I said that, right? So there could be simple ways you can do this. Stop worrying that something's going to go wrong. It's gonna. I promise you. I'm sorry. Something weird is going to happen one day when you're doing a presentation or you're communicating. So let's just learn to laugh, and let's just get back on the technology horse when weird things happen, and it's going to be okay. And then work from home is business as usual. These are some quick tips for you, as I myself too am eagerly awaiting our panel. Thank you.
That's fabulous. Well, Margaret, thank you so much for sharing those very useful tips as a departure point for the panel discussion.
Just to share, we didn't have specific questions. If you have questions, please post them in chat now. We did have some feedback. You've covered a few of these things. I did read one comment here publicly that said, went to a similar event. They got 3 takeaways. Respect everyone's true working hours. Just because you're working from home doesn't mean one can call at any time. Point number 2 was during a one-on-one, have a FaceTime or Skype call rather than plain phone calls to use the new technology. And 3, have an informal how things are going, which I kind of think you've suggested in your presentation earlier as well, some of your ideas. So that's
awesome. Thank you.
Some of the feedback. People say they're enjoying the presentation. Your tips are useful. But I don't have any actual questions for you. So
all right. I'll be here because I get to learn now too.
So you're going to stick around with us, so we'll have a chance to speak to you maybe again at the end if people think of more questions.
Absolutely.
All right. I'd like to introduce Carol, our program's co-chair. She's going to be the host of moderate our panel discussion. Want to say hello and introduce us to the panel, Carol?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. First of all, Margaret, thank you. That was terrific. And I love one of your closing tips, which was, don't worry about something going wrong because it will, so that really sums up a lot. Thank you everyone for attending our first all-female panel for AITP, and one that I might say we've had the largest number of registrants for, so that's sort of fun. Just to give you a little bit of information, we will be doing some polling during the panel, so keep your eyes on the screen. Rick will be putting out a few questions every couple minutes not every couple of minutes, but he'll put out some questions. Please answer them. At the end, there will be a poll about, what type of future projects you want to hear, what you want to see, and so on. And there will be a prize. So you don't have to be present to win the prize, but you do have to stay to the end to do the survey. So it's a survey that'll take you, Rick, 2 minutes, if that? I mean, it's a quick survey. I think it's 4 or 5 questions. So please stay on and do that.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is 6 questions, but it'll only take you less than 5 minutes to fill out. They're just, check this option, check that option, and that's pretty much it. So it should be painless.
Yeah, I don't even think it's going to take 5 minutes. We made it really simple and quick. Anyway, I'm not going to do any introductions because you have all seen the background of Ray Marie, Patria, Linda, Arpana, myself. So I want to just dive right in, Rick. So if you can make it so everyone can see all of our panelists, that would be great.
So everyone, if you can use the gallery view, you can see all the video feeds yourself. And as you speak, you should jump to the forefront of their, you should be highlight and jump on the top of their panel. So
perfect. Okay. So I'm just going to jump in and start with a question. We'll start with Arpana. And Arpana, what are, as you see it, the top 3 challenges of managing remote meetings?
Hi, Carol. Hello, everyone. Great to be here. I'm Aparna Suresh. I'm a product manager at First American Title. And this has been a wonderful presentation so far by Margaret. Just wanted to thank Margaret for a great presentation to kick us off. So, Carol, the top 3 challenges that we face in this new normal for teams that are working remotely are, firstly, being able to establish and continue to have an excellent sense of rapport among your team members. This is one of the most difficult things because most of us are not used to working remotely all the time. Very few actually are used to this, right? So one of the ways that we can overcome this, and this is not an easy way because you actually have to put in the time and effort to do this, is to have as many informal interactions that you can with your team. So, making the effort to talk about things that are not work, like we used to do earlier when we were in person, whether it's, exchanging a quick text message or, making the time to actually chat, call and chat for a few minutes, that would make a world of difference. If you're a manager, making sure that, you continue to have your one-on-one interactions with your team and try to make it a video call. Because you can actually see the expressions face to face, that would also make a huge difference. The second challenge that we face, especially if you're managing remote teams, is finding new ways to manage. Because we no longer can count on meeting and seeing and managing people in person. That is now a thing of the past and will be something that we will not have access to for quite a long time. So, one of the very important points that Margaret brought up was, you cannot slip into micromanaging. That is not a substitute. It will only make things worse. Just because you can't see your team doesn't mean that you try to compensate for that by micromanaging. Instead, you have to do the exact opposite. You need to actually trust your team even more, and empower them to take decisions for themselves whenever and wherever feasible. And finally, be able to delegate. The more you do this, the more this becomes a self-reinforcing positive feedback loop. And you'll see that the interactions and the trust within the team actually begin to increase. And it makes a huge difference. So you need to focus more on outcomes rather than, how long your team is logged in, or, like Margaret said, whether they are available all the time. It's the results that you need to focus on and the outcome of your team. And finally, the third point would be adapting to working from home for employees. So, we all experience a greater sense of isolation now. And also the challenge of ergonomics, because a lot of us are basically not set up to work from home. And of course, now we have everyone at home, right? The whole family is at home. So whatever can be done to alleviate that, the isolation is again, the more informal interactions, the ergonomics, maybe your companies can offer, reimbursement for the proper equipment, whether it's an ergonomic chair or a proper desk. That would make a huge difference. And also the flexibility. So, people will get their work done, but you need to give them the time in which they are able to actually fulfill that to the best of their ability.
Thank you. Thank you. While you were speaking, I saw Patria shaking her head yes to a lot of the things you were saying. Yes. Particularly one where you were talking about finding new ways to manage. Petria, do you want to talk a few moments about finding new ways and mitigating the risks of the challenge of remote teams?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me to the panel, Carol. And
sure.
One of the things that when she said finding new ways to manage is actually, I've had to really come up to speed very quickly on the use of the tools available to me to not only stay in touch with the team, collaborate, and also, like Aparna was saying, other tools to stay in touch and add a little bit of a personal touch. One of the tools that I've been using with my team to add that personal touch that I didn't use before was the use of WhatsApp as a messaging app. right, to stay engaged and to provide my team create a group and share a little bit of personal information from everybody. If I go on a hike, I send pictures, and my team does the same, right? So we can add a little bit of that personal touch, so that we don't have on when we were in person, right? Because you come in on Monday, what did you do on the weekend? We have that conversation, right? So now I'm leveraging that messaging app, and I decided to use that messaging app to remove it out of Microsoft Teams, which is the official app that we use to collaborate, to kind of create a little bit of a differentiation of this is where we can build that community and build that emotional and personal engagement, and continue on with that we did when we were doing it in person.
You make a really good point. I like the fact that you're using a totally different non-related work app. That's super, because that is more, I mean, that's what you, at least if you have international friends and so on, that's what I talk. Yeah. I mean, I call Ireland on Saturday morning. So yeah, you're right. I'd like to go over to Linda for a second, because Linda Murray-Thomas, Dr. Murray-Thomas, she actually manages global teams, as does Petria, global teams. Linda, can you talk a little bit about, you have a big challenge because you're in a million different time zones. Can you tell us a little bit about managing virtual teams in different time zones, and give us a background of where your teams are and so on?
Okay, well, I'm Senior Director in charge of Global Quality Engineering for Universal Parks and Resorts. So I lead the software engineering team for Universal Orlando, Universal Hollywood, Universal Japan, and Universal Beijing. So I have team members in Japan. I have team members, offshore team members in Hyderabad, India. I also have team members here in Hollywood, and then I also have the majority of my team members are in Hollywood, are in Orlando. So my challenge is, one, having daily conversations, daily meetings, which I have across the globe. My day starts at 5:30, and some days it doesn't end till 8, depending on what's going on with Japan. Now, right now, it's a little bit of a challenge because of the different projects and where I'm needed. So right now, my schedule is a little bit tight on certain days, and on other days, I'm able to do an 8-hour day. So my initial challenge was trying to set up, meetings, one-on-ones with team leaders, one-on-ones with individual team members, and then the regular meetings regarding the projects that happen, across the globe, in which I have to be in attendance. So the first thing after we went remote was making sure everybody was able to connect, because that was a big thing, because not everybody was able to connect for various reasons, because some didn't have license to enterprise tools, some worked in the office, but then when they worked at home, it was the whole remote, and security concerns. So that was my first challenge. So once we got through that, but right now it's just trying to establish a rhythm and understanding how my team works. And right now, because school started, it's trying to understand how my team works when they have 5-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 18-year-olds who are supposed to be at college but are actually at home. So that added a different dimension. And with me, I understand what they're going through, but I didn't have to go through it because my husband and I, our son is grown and off the payroll. So it's first understanding how everybody works, how everybody has to work in this environment, and then also understand at the same time, we still had to launch, right now we're in the middle of launching Super Nintendo Land in Japan. We're in the middle of launching a new park in Beijing. We're in the middle of Universal Orlando just reopened. And right now with Hollywood, we're in the middle of, making the plans to reopen the park. So in addition to, just regular projects, you got to worry about how you're going to reopen these enterprise, how the company is going to make money. Yeah, I mean, so, and then some people are on 4 days, some people are on 5 days, some people are working like, what is 5 a.m., some people are working 5 p.m. So it's just trying to find that sweet spot. And then also because we have so many, right now I manage a team of 55 people. So with that, it's trying to keep morale up. How do I let everybody know you're doing a good job, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you are going to have moments where you're going to have a breakdown because something doesn't work. Like you said, not everything's going to be perfect, but you may have that perfectionist on your team. So it's understanding how people work, what motivates them, and how to bring the team together. So once a month, I have to bring the entire global team together so they get perspective on what's going on and what's going to be shifting their way. For example, with Japan, we're opening up Super Nintendo Land in Japan soon. We'll be opening up in Hollywood, and then we'll be opening up in Orlando. So I'm trying to create some synergies because certain projects will go globally. So as much as I want to give them the information because whatever's going to happen is going to happen to them. So the key thing right now is morale. The key thing right now is to give them a vision, a view. And the other thing I keep telling everybody is what we're going through right now, it's not permanent. We will get over the hump. We will get through everything that we have to get through, and we will get to where we're going. My authentic quality is I'm a cheerleader. I've always been a cheerleader. I should have put my picture up, but I'm the consummate cheerleader. I'm like, yes, we could do this, and it's all about team wins, recognizing people remotely, even for some of the big wins where I've had people work 70, 80-hour work week. It's like, how do I recognize them? Well, I recognize them through, I will personally send them Amazon cards, or if I know that they like to eat at, Fleming's or whatever the chain is, send them cards so they could take their family out. Two things I will do. When I start my team meetings, everybody has to get up and then we play music and we dance. So that's the first thing we do. And it always has to be something Michael Jackson or something really funky. The second thing I ask is, how is everybody doing? Not what are you doing? How are you doing? How's your family? Because if you're not in a good spot, then you won't be able to do the work. You won't be able to do what you need to do for your family, but you have to take care of you first. And then the last thing I'll leave you with is I've established trust with them, and they know that I care about them. I mean, I care about the work, but I care about them, because if I don't care about them or show them that I care about them, morale and work and everything else is out the window. Because right now, people need to know that you care about them and you value them. So and that's globally. So globally with the teams, trying to get them to know each other, know the work patterns, because there's a lot of work that goes across the globe.
Thank you, Linda. That was terrific. I'm going to shift to Ray Marie, who has she's local in Santa Monica, and her team is all remote, but all in Los Angeles. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ray Marie.
Correct.
And Linda, you took us right to what I want to ask her is just, how do you build trust? How do you, get people together on your team, Ray Marie? Because you are all, it's not like Linda's team or some of the other teams Patria has, where you're all over the world. So can you talk with us a little bit about what you do right here in Southern California?
Of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Ray Marie Calasan, Head of Operations at AOG. So like Carol mentioned, everyone's in Santa Monica. We do have a few people on the East Coast, but not a big time zone difference. So building trust, I'm able to assess that when I see the product deliverables being delivered as it should from my remote team members. I think Margaret mentioned the importance of not micromanaging, but actually looking at the results. So at AOG, we use this performance tool called 15.5. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but there's similar tools out there. Each week, employee would define their goals for the next week. They'll also cover like what they've achieved that week And so we use that tool to document what we said we're going to do and keep us honest each week. So that's like a really good talking point when we have our one-on-ones. So yeah, and then we just like, you know, we also try to remind each other like how everything rolls up to the department goals. So I'm actually working on that right now. So I'm like defining our department goals and making that clear and communicating that again to everyone so that, you know, they see the impact of what they're doing and it's making a difference, you know, across the company.
Okay, thank you, thank you. And you know, I'll jump into there because I think we've talked about this, Ray Marie, managing personnel issues from a remote basis. And then of course, I'd like to hear from our other panelists also, when someone isn't performing or if there is an issue with attendance or whatever it might be, any standard personnel issue, they're not meeting the defined goals. That's very different than being able to talk to someone face to face and read their body language and so on. So Ray Marie, do you want to talk about that for a minute or so?
For sure. Yeah, I think right now that's been really tough because with everything that's happening with COVID and just like lockdown, I think that's becoming like an issue more and more. I think like Margaret touched on this, and it's really important to really show empathy on what everything is, you know, that's, you know, acknowledging that, you know, you do see what's happening and it's okay to ask questions. So I think like just being more open, I think I've struggled with that in the beginning just because I don't really like talking about personal stuff. But I think right now, like I'm trying to build that like remotely since we're losing that water cooler talks that we used to have like in the kitchen. So I think like just like having more one-on-ones and talking, you know, like, and also creating some activities. Like last week I did a game, a Jeopardy game. It's called triviamaker.com. It's like a really good tool and it's super simple. You can incorporate some work questions there. So it's like just built up a lot of like trust between everyone. And then, so when we do have our one-on-ones and if, you know, someone's having an issue, like I don't, you know, I think like it's easier for me to discuss about, you know, the issues that, you know, performance issues when, you know, I do have some other relationships besides work.
Yeah.
And having that face-to-face is super important too. Like, you know, not doing it via chat, like, you know, encouraging them to turn, you know, their videos, and also timing is super important. If they have kids, then, you know, I kind of have an idea, the timing that's good to have that talk with less distraction. So, so yeah.
Okay. Patria, do you want to add a tip or two, or maybe even a story, obviously no names, but just when you have to handle, because you have teams all over the world also. And so we didn't really talk about it, but the cultural differences too of different countries.
Yes. So just to give you a context on me and my role. So I manage the global product team at RIA Money Transfer. And RIA Money Transfer, to put it in context, we basically offer the same money transfer services as Western Union. So we operated in 160 countries. I have teams of product managers in Asia, Europe, and Americas. And absolutely, you know, there's definitely onboarding new team members. This is something I had to do remotely pre-COVID, and learning the different nuances of the team member. One thing that I've identified with one of the team members and that I had to address was the confidence level into having the confidence to, when I was not there, obviously, to go up to other cross-functional teams and ask questions and get the person unstuck from where they were. And that was impacting the deliverables of this person's deliverables. So what I had to do was to come up with, identify a proxy in the region where the person is, that the person felt comfortable that when there was off hours, this person can go to this proxy, which we were parallel to me in terms of the org structure, and talk about the challenges, how can I get unstuck, roadblocks and things like that. So that actually alleviated the very steep learning curve that this person was doing, having that proxy there that they can talk to. And then once the person felt comfortable, felt more confident, that they knew the process, that they knew the product, and was able to build the confidence and update their deliverables and actually meet the expected. And right now, this person is exceeding the expectations. So that's what I was able to do from a remote perspective. So that helps, if it's somebody that's in a different office, you can identify a proxy there. But if it's somebody that is within your location, having that offline conversation too. Sometimes, when we were in person, we would go to lunch or we would go for coffee. Yeah. Just have that, right? Schedule a lunch meeting, sit in front of the camera, talk in the video, and be empathetic, like ask the question, there's something going on. Don't highlight performance issue right away. Just try to have a learning conversation with that person over that lunch or that coffee, right? I noticed that there's things that you haven't been speaking up in meetings. There's something that has been affecting you. So trying to have that learning conversation will definitely help.
Thank you. No, I love the idea of a proxy. That's a really good takeaway. That's really good. One of the things that I actually stole from my daughter is I've been doing what I call DoorDash lunches. So if there's someone who I want to have lunch with, be it a client or a consultant or whatever, and they don't want to, they're too far or they can't meet or whatever, I say, tell me your favorite restaurant. I'll DoorDash lunch to you. And then we sit just like we are right now at our kitchen tables and, have lunch together. So it's worked really well. And people are always surprised, like, wow, you'll do that? It's like, it's easy. Yeah, of course, no problem. So in fact, I have DoorDash. I have a place in Santa Monica that will deliver cheese and wine flights. And then there's even a service that will deliver cocktails if you want to do a happy hour. So
that's a great tip.
Yeah, I stole it from my daughter. Arpana, do you want to add anything to this? Yeah, I'm sure you've had some difficult situations.
Sure, Carol. I think actually the most important thing to look out for is misunderstandings. Yeah. Because the way we communicate now is so different. It's text, and text strips context of everything, right? And it strips tone too. So you have to be very careful, not to misunderstand. I remember a communication with a colleague where, they were asking for some information, but it sounded very rushed and I didn't understand. I was wondering why are they being so abrupt? And then it seemed, turned out actually that the person was simply under a lot of stress, but there was no context for it. So, we had to be able to, sort that out. And again, it's the medium of communication. The easiest thing to do is to text people now, right? Not right. Call them or do a video call. So it's really, really important to give people the benefit of doubt. That's one thing I realized, even when it's not easy to do so, and to, be vulnerable enough to reach out and, ask, what's happening, so. Yeah. That's something that I feel is a very valuable technique that we can use in our lives right now.
Oh, agreed. One of the other things that I've been doing, and this I did not steal from my daughter, I actually did this is my idea. I mail people Hershey bars. If they do something really, to help me, or I just like an idea, or they're in a meeting, if I have their home address, I have cards and I just mail them a Hershey bar that just, with a little note that just says, thank you, really appreciate the extra effort or whatever. And it's not even that, like, it's not the cost of it or anything. It's more like people are so surprised. I get pictures of people who send me, Ray Marie knows because I mailed her a Hershey bar once, where they send me pictures the little note with the Hershey bar. So and it makes people, it's a happy thing. Who doesn't want a piece of chocolate, you know? So, so that's something that seems to work for me. Let's talk about interruptions. We all know that kids are going to walk in, as Margaret said, if you close the door all the way, the cat's going to scratch at it all during your meeting. The doorbell rings, you spill your cup of coffee that you're holding in your hand. How do you handle them? Is there anyone who'd like to go first? I'll just throw it out there to our panelists.
Depending on what it is, it could be a good laugh. I know when we started having virtual meetings, we had to set some ground rules. And one of them was around dress,
yeah, that's a good point.
Dress or people who, your what we call them, your coworkers, how they should be dressed, especially if they're going to be walking back and forth, because not everybody has a designated room or a designated home office. But it's basically, if you can't, set some ground rules. And then there are some things are just going to happen, because I have 2 team members that have 4 children under the age of 10. So there are going to be a lot of interruptions. And then I have some coworkers who they get more Amazon deliveries than, they get at least 2 to 3 Amazon deliveries a day. So, things are going to happen by, say, initially set some ground rules. Or what, especially about things that are appropriate or not appropriate.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point, Linda. And actually, one thing that that has happened to me a lot is for my team members that have young children, right? Because and pets too. But pets, when the dog starts barking, is oh well. But the kids do require attention, right? And there are the toddlers and the young kids that they just require attention and they seek it. So that typically has happened. It happens a lot. What I tend to do is I tend to be sensitive to the situation. So I ask, do you need to take a break and attend to the child? And if what I found is that most of the time the answer is like, no, let's just proceed. So when I get that answer, I just try to stay on point, very, very focused on the meeting, so that I cut the meeting time short and just highlight, make sure that I concentrate on the very priority items I want to communicate during that time, and then leave the rest for another time. So that's typically how I handle those children interruptions.
Thank you. Ray Marie, does that happen on your teams or I can't hear you. Did Ray Marie mute herself?
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I couldn't talk
now you
for
are.
a while, so Rick just helped me out. Thank you so much. So the interruptions, when I know it's coming from my end, so what I do is just like give them a heads up. Lately, there has been a lot of construction around my apartment.
Yeah.
So I usually just, give everyone a heads up, especially if I'm running the meeting. And so, I just kick it off, and then, hopefully like it's not too loud, but, and also just like what I do is I just send an agenda ahead of time, so we stay on topic. And since knowing that there's a lot of interruptions, working from home. And then if I do see it on the other side, like what I do is I've been just trying to ignore them lately. If I see a baby coming out before, like someone would make a comment, oh my gosh, like cute baby, and then I can't help also, but, acknowledge that. So I think I minimize that now, and think everyone's doing that lately, so that we can keep focus and then, stay in the agenda, and then, acknowledging that, it's not like we're ignoring it, but we're just trying to, stay on track.
Right. Does anyone have or want to share any stories from a meeting that really went south from some incident or whatever, or just trying to pull people together? I don't know if anyone has one that they can share. Any takers?
It hasn't happened to me, so I can't share that.
Good for you. Good for you.
Well,
Lynn?
just, yeah, again, and going with when I have an agenda and then I ask the team members, well, how are you doing? And then somebody is just having an absolutely horrible day. I mean, I've had people, you know, people especially just cry, and then it's sort of just the whole tone of the meeting. And you know, because right now it's very, you know, right now it's just very, very tough for some of my team members, especially my female team members.
There is no crying in IT.
Yeah, but on this side, it was one of my male team members who was crying.
Oh my gosh, really?
And you know, it was just, he just couldn't handle it, couldn't handle the responsibility. You know, he felt like, you know, especially when you have kids at home and you want to be a good father and a good coworker, but you know, you have to make those decisions. So when the team members aren't feeling like they can contribute or they can hold the meeting or do whatever the purpose of the meeting is, it's basically, you know, it switches from a work conversation to an empathy conversation or a conversation of concern, where that's where you learn more about your employees. One, because they're at home. And this is where the kindergarten teacher in me comes out, because I used to teach for Los Angeles Unified. So sometimes I have to switch from being a director, from being a cheerleader to being a kindergarten teacher. Right. And it's basically calming up the situation down and then basically ending, you know, sometimes I don't end the meeting, but then there's other times when, you know, I make suggestions, say, well, I think you should go do X, Y, Z. Go take care of your kids, go, you know, go buy flowers for your wife, or, you know, whatever is needed. But in that particular situation, one of my coworkers, one of the managers who works for me, he just didn't feel like he was doing anything right, working, being a father, being a husband. And so his work, whatever was supposed to be done that week, it didn't happen. So, but again, it has to do with where we are right now, because we never expected we would be at home 6 months with our family.
Really?
And you know, some people, you know, it's impacting the mental health of our employees right now.
Yeah. Now we're all having COVID moments, and sometimes those moments last longer than we even anticipated. So I'd like to talk now about onboarding people remotely, because business goes on. You have to bring new team members on. People still are finding jobs. I mean, the market's definitely shifted, but people do leave teams. What are the challenges, Ray Marie, of onboarding new team members?
Carol, can I interrupt for just a moment?
Sure.
I'd like to throw up a poll. You have a question on that topic. Do you want to?
Oh yeah, I forgot about our poll, Rick. Yeah,
all right, so I'll put that. You can keep talking. I'll just put a poll up for the audience to respond to. See how many people are doing the same task.
Sure. Have you been throwing out the poll? Oh no, because this is the first I've seen.
Okay, yeah. So I just see it too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the audience is putting in, we're getting 30% of the responses. So for those of you who are watching the recording, this question is, have you onboarded a new team member? Have you onboarded new team members remotely? Either you have or you haven't, yes or no. So we're waiting for the response. We got about 50% of the votes in currently. At the moment, the majority is no. People have not onboarded new team members remotely so far. And it looks like that trend is holding true. So I'll go ahead and I'll post the results.
Well, when you start onboarding new team members.
Oh, wow. Yeah, people haven't.
Oh, wow. There's 32%.
Okay.
So the challenge that I've experienced, I don't have a lot of experience onboarding new hires, but when I did, I think it's just very time consuming compared to how we used to do
Yes.
it before. Just because you're losing that coworker that used to sit next to you and you can just ask that person a question that it's not exactly like, you know, that you have in your plan to onboarding plan. So I'm finding myself asking all the questions since I am the onboarder and the trainer. So how I resolve this is, you know, just going back to like introducing them and encouraging them to meet other team members, because you know, just like building like the, you know, like your buddy systems, right? When you like onboard them, I think that's super, super important when you're onboarding someone, because they would like to meet other peers and, you know, they're you know, just everyone from the cross-functional team. So yeah, that's the challenge I had.
So Carol, I actually have had to onboard 2 team members during COVID remotely. So I can speak to the challenges, what happened and what I learned. I don't know if you can hear me.
No, we can hear you.
Oh,
You're
okay.
fine. Good.
So the first issue that we encounter was equipment, right? And equipment setup. This equipment had to be shipped to the new hires. And even though the equipment did arrive on time, setting it up and giving access to the person took a few days. So there was a lot of planning on my part prior to the person starting. And the planning happened in 2 ways. I made sure that I sent a lot of, and this is where documentation comes in handy. I sent a lot of documentation to the new hire ahead of time on the company to talk about our understanding of our company, the corporate culture, our strategy, the different products that we manage, the product that that person was going to have. And the request there was, please read, review, and write down questions for me so we could go over. And also I set up a lot of meetings to Ray Marie's point on meetings with cross-functional team members, right? Those meetings could happen over the phone. You didn't actually have to be set up with the equipment. It's just, you know, you call the person at a specific time and you talk to that person about their function and how that function relates to you. So that actually kept the person busy reading and meeting people for the few days that it took for our IT to give them access to the system. So that is, if I can offer a tip, is a lot of planning on your part to set up kind of an onboarding time frame. And so the first few days of that time frame, try to do manage tasks that do not require a lot of equipment or access to a lot of systems.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I'll just throw in, for those of you who don't know, I'm an IT recruiter, so I'm placing people, many consultants. And one of the things we're running into, one of my clients has been onboarding very successfully remotely, but there have been some major issues. One of them being getting equipment. So many people need new PCs now that they can't buy the PCs quickly enough. And then it takes some time to load them with what they want to send them out with. So that department, even once they get the physical machine, they're backed up getting it, you know, set up and ready to send. Then once it's ready to send, you know, most times FedExpress is going to get it to you quickly, but we all know now, you know, it may take an extra day or two. So it's really a supply chain of getting it to them. The other thing I see some clients do when it's something that's a repetitive process, people are just making them on their phones or their iPads, and they're doing training videos that they send out. They're very informal, but it gets them going. And then a lot of it is just jumping into the swimming pool in the deep end, you know, join the meeting on Monday morning at 9 o'clock and we'll get you going, you know? So there is, from what I can see from an outsider, there is a much more greater need today to really be able to jump in the deep part of the pool and tread water, because you're going to have to. You're not going to be able to go to the guy in the cubicle next to you or run into someone down the hall and ask that question. So I try and give people a safe person that if you have, like if I know the client well enough, I give them a safe person to ask a question to, so that like if you have a question that you think is that dumb question that we all have, here's someone you can go to that I think you'll be, you know, you won't be compromising yourself or looking, you know, foolish. So anyone else want to add any ideas on that?
Carol?
Yes,
so
please.
this is Aparna. So really quickly, I just wanted to say what a great idea that is, what you talked about now, the safe person or a buddy. The reason is that when you join a company, there are a lot of unwritten rules.
Yes.
So normally you would join in person and you would learn these unwritten rules which actually define the culture
Yes.
of the company, you know, as time goes by. But that is no longer the case now. So new employees are actually at a huge disadvantage.
Yes.
In some ways, you know, and these are the things that don't get talked about. The obvious things are things like equipment, you know, having the right equipment and, you know, the processes, but, you know, these are all the visible things, but the intangible things, the cultural things are hidden.
Yes.
They are not visible on the surface. So having a buddy or a safe person who can guide the new employee during these times is absolutely invaluable.
Oh, thank you. Well, good. I hope everyone can use it. Let's talk a little bit about skill sets and hiring people these days. We'll talk about the job market in COVID in a little bit, but really right now, I wanted to talk a little bit about, do you look for a different skill set when you're hiring people now during COVID? And if so, what type of different skills? I mean, we know obviously communication is important in any job, but Arpana, do you want to talk about that for, open us up on that discussion?
Sure, Carol, sure. So you're right. You know, the number one skill that you are is actually great communication skills. These skills were always important, but now it becomes even more important. I think everyone has mentioned how important it is to over-communicate, right? So because we have reduced the number of channels through which we can communicate. And we don't realize that so much we pick up via body language that you don't now. So being able to have good interpersonal skills, you know, being able to communicate well as being able to relate to your team. So that is, I think, probably the number one skill that you will look for. The other couple of skills, both closely related, that I would recommend are having a result-oriented worldview. Now, especially when outcomes are so important, you know, we basically judge success from outcomes, because you can't manage in person. You know, all the advantages that you had of in-person management are now gone. So, you know, having people who have a results-oriented worldview and realize the importance of outcomes and who are able to deliver on that will be very valuable. And closely related to that, I would also say, is an ability to follow through on commitments without much hand-holding. So, you know, earlier we used to be able to meet in person, and, you know, you could remind, you know, someone in person, is this ready, or is that deliverable going to be ready soon? And we don't have that anymore, Carol. So, you know, being able to have the discipline and the trust to be able to follow through on your commitments is something that is going to be extremely valuable.
Yeah. No, I agree. In fact, one thing I'll even add to your list is written skills are also so important now, because you need the ability to send an email clearly defining tasks and who's assigned and the goals of it and the deadline. And if you can't put a good document and not, you know, and short and succinct, because we don't want to read 3, you know, screens. That's very important. Yeah. You're laughing. You've obviously received the 3-screen email. Do you want to share something, Patrick?
Yeah, no, it's really important. Like a partner was saying on communication, yes, and actually, this is something that I have been coaching my team. Some of my team members are really good, like Carol, like you were saying, at crafting emails that are on point, very to the point. And so yes, so important right now, especially when we're communicating to our stakeholders and the people in the executive team, right? That we don't have the opportunity to go to the in-person, did you have a question? So it's so important to do that, like a partner was saying, very coaching on communication and writing those emails are on to the point for sure, yes.
Linda, Ray Marie, anything to add? Because after this, I want to talk about tools that we're all using. And then the last question, you know, Arpana has actually asked me to talk about the job market these days and what it's like, which I'll be happy to do. And then we're going to open it up to questions from everyone who's here. So Ray Marie, Linda, anything else you'd like to add about skill set you look for?
So yeah, just really communication skills, like everybody else was saying, like something, you know, short and structured. It's super important. Everyone's so busy reading messages, emails, PowerPoint. So it's important to like get straight to the point and, you know, being very clear about, you know, what it is that you need.
Good.
And good internet.
Oh yes, you know what? We take that for granted, but no, I have had issues with that where people who start where their internet speed is terrible, you know, and we take it that everyone has it. But I had a gentleman who started, he lived in an old building down in the Fairfax area, and he couldn't even get good. The building was so old that somehow they couldn't upgrade it. So thank you, that's a very good point. Linda, anything else to add before we talk about tools?
Well, because of, in parks, a lot of the things we do are new, or we're doing things that haven't been done before. So in order to have a good QE person, I look at how does that person think? Are they able to be in gray areas? And it's especially important because you're in a gray area trying to figure things out and you're by yourself. So it's, you know, having somebody who's able to think out the box, again, like what's already been said, communication is important. And then also trust, because you have to be able to establish trust with that person. And then the final thing would be, if they're a manager, what is how do they convey thought leadership? Because I do, you know, so how do they think, how do they lead? And especially again, because everybody's remote. So you won't be able to go up and have that conversation, but you have to be able to lead remotely.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Let's talk about tools.
You want to put up the poll and ask people what tools they're currently using?
Yes, please, absolutely. Okay. Yes, and you know what else, Rick? There was a question, I'm curious to know, we had one question that was, how many remote meetings are people attending per day or per week? I'm just curious to get a sense of what the team
I can
is
follow
saying.
up with that after this question. So
perfect, okay.
People are voting a little faster, so we should have results soon.
Good.
So for those that are on the recording, we're asking the audience, which tools are you using? And it's a multiple choice question. We're asking if they use Zoom, WhatsApp, Microsoft Teams, Slack, or Google Suite of products. So we'll see what the results are here. Ooh, they're looking pretty skewed at the moment. So I've got, looks like voting has slowed down. I'm going to go ahead and close the polls and I'll share the results. And we have an overwhelming winner with Zoom. 85% of the people are using Zoom, and second runner-up was using the Google Suites. Maybe you guys can talk about those tools and how they're effective or challenging.
Okay. No, and Slack, that's interesting. Slack, I find, I hear that everyone feels it's very collaborative. So Ray Marie, who a couple of years ago actually gave a great presentation at the SOTEC conference about the tools she was using. So I'll throw it to you, Ray Marie.
Sure. So for my company, I mean, I think most companies, they don't, you know, like the engineering team would just roll out, sorry, there's something in front of me. You know, like the tech stack would already be defined for us. So we have Zoom, we have Google Suite, we have Slack, and we also have Confluence and Jira for collaboration.
Right, yeah.
So for collaboration purposes, my favorite would be the Google Suite. So we have that Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Slides. So what I really like about this is the real-time collaboration. So let's say I'm in a meeting and I'm taking minutes and action items, I'm able to just send the link to everyone. And not only I can, you know, enter my notes and minutes, everybody can also chime in. Say you have a really big meeting and, you know, for some reason I didn't capture like, you know, what someone was saying, you know, everyone can really chime in. So I really like it for that purpose. And you can also assign, I think you can do this for OneNote too. But you know, you just use all the different functionalities that these tools have, assigning it to someone so that they can follow up on it later. And then they can, you know, check the box to see if it's resolved already, so that, you know, you can just like take a look at that sheet to see like what you need to follow up on.
Thank you. Who else? Linda, Patria, or Hannah, what tools, what do you like? And let me throw this out. What tools have you found disappointing that you would not recommend?
I've had Blue Jeans before. We've used to use that tool. It really failed for us so many times. It's kind of like Zoom. I don't know if in here in Santa Monica, felt like a lot were using that like before COVID, and everyone switched to Zoom. But yeah, I don't know if that's, you know, very familiar.
Yeah.
What tool was that? What tool was that, Ray Marie? I didn't catch the name.
Blue Jeans.
Blue Jeans. Okay, thank you.
I feel so bad now. I'm like talking crap about that company, but like it was just like bad. Like connection was so bad all the time.
Well, no, that's what we're here for. Don't worry, no one's turning you in to the tools police. You know.
Yes. So in our case, actually, Zoom is blocked. And I'm actually, I'm actually accessing this meeting through my my own personal iPad. And so what we use is Microsoft Teams. And actually, I have found it to be, the more I learn about it, I have found it to be a pretty comprehensive tool for collaboration, and also as a manager for a way to tracking progress of what your team is doing. And I'll tell you a couple of things on collaboration. As Ray Marie was saying, Microsoft Teams allows you, when you're in meetings, to type in notes. So as you were talking, so everybody can see them. You can assign action items. You can also record meetings, which I love, because then later on I can actually go and, you know, listen to the meetings and maybe get screenshots if somebody's sharing a screen. Also, for collaboration purposes, you can create different teams and for different projects, and you can share files. Everybody in that team can actually update the files and save them, and their work is saved right away. People can work on the same files at the same time. That's not an issue, and all the changes get saved right away, and you can pull up the latest and freshest files. So I like that. The thing that I have found very, very good as a manager for teams is that they have what they call team planner. So you can assign a planner to each of your employees, and they can build what it looks like a Kanban board or a Jira board or a Confluence board. So they can create tiles and assign the tiles to the category. So it could be that I am in to do, doing, completed, or design, solution design, requirements gathering, dev, and different categories. So each of those tiles, it could be big projects or small projects. So I as a manager can come in anytime to my employees' board, and I can see where they are, what they have on their board, do they have the right priorities, are they working on the right projects, are they meeting their deliverables? So that is a really good tool that I found. There's one out there that is available. It doesn't have to be in Teams. It's called Trello. So if for those people that don't have, the companies don't have Microsoft Teams, they can access the free tools similar to what I'm talking about, like Kanban board. It's called Trello, and I have found it to be very, very useful when managing teams remotely, because you can just go in and track progress.
Thank you. Linda, do you want to add anything to the tools you're using, or?
Well, right now, Teams has saved my life, especially when I have, because especially for testing, or if we're on a call, on a SWAT call, or, something where we need to talk to somebody right now. We're meeting on Teams, and then we have to get a hold of somebody. We'll just go ahead and add them to the chat or call them in Teams. And that call will go to their laptop as well as their cell phone. And we've done we've done this a lot, especially with some of our team members who are either who are on our offshore team or over in USJ. So we're able to get them, on the call right away. And sometimes things are mission, we're working on tight timelines. So that's one of the things that has helped us tremendously.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think I forgot to mention my other favorite tool, which is free for everyone if they want to use this. So it's called Team Gantt. I think you can go to teamgantt.com. So that tool has been really helpful for me when I'm planning like long-term projects. So again, it's free, so that's the best thing about it. And then, and you can.
We like free. We like free.
We like free. Yeah, and then you can assign people tasks too. So it's very collaborative. You can add notes. You can attach items to it, and it's in a you can plan projects and see like a big roadmap. And when you're presenting, it's really nice to just pull it up, and yeah, it's also useful because you can follow up on people you have it automated so that yeah, if things are due, you'll get an email like a week before or like a day before and remind people that it's due. So I really like that because it helps me with project management. I don't have to go to Slack and ask someone myself. I'm just letting the Team Gantt do it.
Cool. Excellent. Well, before we open for Q&A, I was asked by Pana to talk a little bit about the current job market and what it's like under COVID.
Can I intervene just a second?
Of
You
course,
had asked to poll the audience as to how many Zoom meetings or how many virtual meetings they're attending, and I have the results.
Oh, tell us, yes.
So 42% of the people have 1 to 5 meetings per week. 23% have 6 to 10. 19% have more than 10 meetings per week. And 15% are not attending meetings on a regular basis weekly.
That's interesting. I would have thought we'd have a higher percentage in the 6 to 10 virtual meetings. I would have thought that would have been more like 42. That's interesting.
So it sounds like 1 a day is the norm.
Yeah, that is interesting. But I know a lot of companies where it's back to back and people are suffering. I'm sure you've heard the new term Zoom fatigue. So the job market these days is definitely different. It is slow, there's no doubt about it, but there are companies that are hiring both full-time and contractors. They are onboarding them remotely. They are training them remotely. It's happening. And some people are getting really, really good jobs. I know of a couple people who really ended up getting nice promotions with very good salaries. So it is out there, but it is hard. What I think we're seeing is companies are really going to change. All the companies that I work with that always said, no remote, are now telling me, oh yeah, if you find that project manager, we don't care where they are. They can be any part of the country. I mean, typically it's within the United States. It really depends on the size of the company. From what I can see, the smaller companies do want to have people who are in at least their locale, so that when we get back to normal, which normal will never be the same. I think we all realize that. We're not all going to be going in every day. we all have learned and companies have realized that they don't need to spend that much money on real estate. People are working, but I think it will come back to a rotating basis because we do want to see each other. There's no doubt about it. We want to get together and see each other. So that will change. I think there's going to be a glut of real estate on the market once companies settle out and can change their leases. As far as looking for work, if you are looking for work, networking the old way obviously is not available. I would say, you know, attending meetings like this, where I think the networking, it's the first time we tried it on a meeting, and I think it was, you know, successful, and people can chat in between each other and exchange emails and personal information if they want to connect. I would say, you know, networking on LinkedIn as much as you can, have a really solid profile. You will be found there. That's really important. And just keeping in touch with people. I mean, we all want that old-fashioned telephone call. How you doing? I mean, you can text me and I'll answer the text, and you can email me and I'll do all of that. But saying hello to someone, and especially if you're looking for work, if you are in transition, you know, talking to people and finding out where are you at right now? Are there any positions? I'm available. I mean, that's a good catchphrase to use instead of saying, oh, I need a job. Just saying, I'm available if you hear of anything, because even some of your friends, they may hear of something that they're not interested in, but if they know that you're available, they'll pass it on to you, hopefully. So recruiting has definitely changed. I mean, if a recruiter reaches out to you, be smart, respond back to them, even if you're not looking. It makes sense to have a good recruiter in your network. But the skill set, like we've talked about, definitely has changed. If you haven't used a lot of Zoom meetings, if you haven't used these tools, it's imperative that you do some YouTube videos on them. Be current with what is going on today. Know how to use Zoom. Know how to use these tools, even if you just try it with a few friends to test it out. So I think at this point, that's really all I have to say on that. Can we open it up to Q&A, Rick?
Yeah, so I've been collecting questions in the background from the audience. They've been sending them in to me. So first one I have is from Ray. The question's especially for Linda. And the question is, are there unique approaches to teamwork with different cultures?
Yep, good question.
Yes, definitely yes. And I'm trying to think how I could best categorize this. There are cultural differences, especially, you know, that I see working with my USJ team, my team from Japan, and my offshore team, compared to my team that's, you know, here in Hollywood or in Orlando. I have to encourage them to do like what I do. When something's wrong, say something. Or if you have an idea, say something. Because a lot of times, you know, they're being respectful, and they won't say anything, or they won't contradict you. So there's a lot of things that ground rules or team rules that we talk about is it's okay to talk about something. It's okay to have a different opinion, and it's encouraged. So yeah, there are differences.
Yeah, I actually would like to expand on that, seeing that I also manage global teams, and what Linda talked about, which is in the different cultures, especially in Asian cultures, where and my team is in a Muslim country, right, where there's a lot of respect for the other person, and you know, you don't want to be seen as somebody that is not respectful or a team player, and also when working with teams in those Muslim countries, how women are treated, right? The one thing that I always tell my team in those countries is remind them of what their responsibilities are and what we're hired for. As product managers, we own the product, right? So, and everybody across the world expect us to be the decision maker. So, reminding them of that, and also having them understand that I have their back when they make those decisions helps them to be assertive, especially the women that are managing these products and these big initiatives, right? It helps them build the confidence that I was hired to do this, and therefore it's part of my responsibility that I am make decisions, and whatever decision I make, I know that I have the support of my manager.
Yeah. And then just with how I am or how I am if I work before COVID or before we work remotely, if I worked late, my husband, he's fully, he's able to take care of himself. I didn't have to rush home. I didn't have to rush, and Carol knows my husband, so I didn't have to rush home and cook. And even when my son was younger, my husband would, pick up the ball if I worked hard. He would pick up our son, have dinner for him. And then the other thing that I had to be very, very careful about was with my offshore team, I had several females who worked on my team. We had to make sure that they left work at a certain time because in some of the areas, it's not safe for them to work late. So, we had to be just aware of the differences and how we, just basically the cultural differences.
Right, respecting it, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely is a big one for sure.
Yep. Oh.
So our next question comes in from Elenia Goods. Actually, Elena, if I unmute you, would you like to ask yourself if that works?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, do it.
So I'm allowing her to speak.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. So the question was around Zoom fatigue. How do you identify Zoom fatigue, and how can you avoid it?
How can you manage it? I do back-to-back meetings. I have to schedule breaks. I have to get up. I have to block time on my calendar, because if I don't block time on my calendar, somebody will block a meeting in at that time. And it's basically trying to manage your calendar and get up and take breaks.
Linda, I hear that a lot from different client managers, that they block off certain hours so that no one can, do a meeting at that time because they need the time.
Yep. I do the same. Like I block my calendars for just for a quick walk. Yeah, and then what I do is I switch devices. Sometimes I use my laptop, I use my phone, and then I relocate to different places.
I do that. I start out my morning upstairs, and then I come down and have, a cup of tea and have some stuff that I can do downstairs, because I don't allow myself to take, tea upstairs because I know it's going to spill.
One thing that I do with my team, and I don't know if this helps with Zoom fatigue, because we don't have Zoom, but we do have Teams, and Teams has that video option, right, that you can have on and off. But most of the meetings, we don't have the video on. Yeah. And that seems to, at least for me, I don't feel that I'm fatigued, because there are some instances, because the video is off, that I can go to the kitchen and fix a tea for me, right? Or pour a cup of coffee. So I can do things, right? And not necessarily have to be like I am now, right? So that has helped. So if you have the confidence in a meeting, either one-on-one, that the video can be off, but the people can stay on focus, then
Right.
then I will suggest you do that.
You know what I do? I do the exact same thing. There's a lot less pressure when you don't have to be camera ready. And often when I do that, I do it on my phone with my earbuds, or I actually still have a landline in my house and I have a headset that wraps around my ear. And it lets me, just like you're saying, you know, get a cup of tea or be eating something and getting something else done while I'm on the meeting. So yes, no video is a good thing at times.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't have the video and I have my earbuds and I walk back and forth, you know, and
Yeah.
that can, yeah.
I mean, you can be doing anything. You can be folding laundry. I mean, women
Exactly.
are famous, right? Women are famous for multitasking. So you know we're never doing just one thing. I mean, that goes without saying. Every woman knows that. Rick, next question.
So our next question comes from Vivek. Do you want to speak up? This question was, I'll read what he wrote. I want to know how many people feel their own job is more difficult, more stressful as compared to working from home. I feel working from home reduces a lot of stress from commuting and preparing. I also think that meetings are simpler, relationships are harder, new hires are tough, but overall life is simpler. Am I the only one who thinks working from home is easier?
I think it's easier, but I miss the interaction and I miss just seeing people. But it does, there's a lot less laundry to do. There is. I mean, there's, you know, dry cleaners are hurting. If you talk to any of them, they're not happy. But I do miss, and what it has taught me, quite honestly, is that I don't have to be running around every day. That if I take anything out of COVID, it will be that I don't have to have as much going on outside, and that I should give myself at least 2 days a week where I am at home all day, because it makes for an easier time. No commute, no, you know, it's just easier.
Yeah, I don't know if for me, and I actually would like to hear from Linda, because Linda, you also manage a team globally. I don't know if for me has become easier, because what has happened for me is that my commute time is now meeting time, right?
Right.
And because I manage a global team, they know that I'm more available, so I can jump on calls in the evenings. I can jump on calls super early in the morning. So I am enjoying working from home a lot, because I feel like I'm more productive and more available, but I wouldn't say that it has become easier for me, but I enjoy it. So it's not that it's harder, but it's not easier. So I don't know, Linda, I heard you said you are in meetings at 5:30 a.m. What happened pre-COVID? Were you also in meetings at 5:30 a.m.?
Yes.
You were. Wow, okay.
Yeah, I was, but there would have to be like a break where I'd have to go to the office, because I had my meetings here in LA, and then I have to leave early to come for other meetings. So it's made life easier for me. But again, my driving time now is more meetings.
Yeah.
What I've had to do now is I've had to, again, manage my schedule.
Yeah.
Meaning that I'm an early bird anyway, but I start meetings at 5:30. I will not start meetings at 5. I will not do a 4:30 meeting. And then the same thing on the tail end. And it has to be like a rare exception. Just because I have a global team doesn't mean I have to work 24/7, because they are. So that's been you know, and it's just basically setting the guidelines of how I work, and then people know how I work. Working from home, it's been, I mean, for me, I think it's great, but I would also like to have the option to go into the office once a week, or go, you know, have that face-to-face meeting.
Yeah, the same for me. I really enjoy working from home too, but depending on what I need to get done that day, or what I need help with. Like, for example, my laptop was broken for a week, like the space bar and the keyboard was not working. And I couldn't like, go to the office and see the help desk. So it was like, just like those little things that comes up. They used to have like, a team that helps you there, but you're losing that. But, if I'm just doing my work, like individual work, individual contribution, it's really nice to work from home because you get no distraction.
Right.
Yes.
By the way, I just saw in the chat, we have a big congratulations to our Pana, who was promoted to product manager today. So
Thank you.
I'm sorry
Thank you,
I didn't see it earlier, but congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
We have 4 more questions, so we can go through them. Maybe if we keep our answers kind of short to about a minute, I think we can get through them. Let's see. Nilu, do you want to speak up? You had a question?
Yes, these are all very useful tips. So my question was how can you still encourage open door policy? So as a manager, before you had an office and you can say anyone can come in and just knock and just talk about things, right? But now how can you do that? Like, because if you're in Zoom meetings all day long, how do you still encourage that?
I tell my team, text me. If they have a question, they want to talk, text me, and then we could set something up.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, is in Teams, they can send you a question or ask you if you can chat. I think my team has transitioned very well from coming into my office to Teams.
Yeah, during our one-on-ones, we'll just, and I think everyone from my team have my phone number, so they just text me.
Yep.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
The next question comes from Myron K. Let's see.
Rick, thank you. You're
Myron,
doing a great job as the DJ. I think next year you'll do the Emmys, okay? Instead of the nice, it'll be you.
This is for Marie. She mentioned a couple of tools for project management and then collaboration. If she can let us know what those tools are.
Yeah, of course. I was trying to find you. Okay, there you are. Okay, I was waiting for your face. But yeah, so I use 15.5. I think the previous person just mentioned that. So it's 1.5 and then the word 5. So that I'm not sure if that's free, but yeah, it's a weekly check-in tool. And you can also have department goals. And they also have this really good functionality called high five. So everyone from the company can highlight a person that helps them out, for a certain product or just everything. I think that's like a really good tool for that too. Cause like, sometimes I don't really know like everything that my team members are doing. So it's nice to hear it from other team members or other teams calling out someone. And then, it just like, it also just inspires everyone to help each other. The other one was Team Gantt. So that one is a road mapping tool, which is also really great, but it's for a different purpose. Like you're planning initiatives in the beginning of the year. That's a really good thing to use. And again, like you can use, you can have attachments there. And my favorite functionality of that tool is having the email alerts. So if things are due or you've completed a task or someone else completed a task, you'll get a notification that, that box has been checked.
Okay. The first one you said 15-5?
It's one word, 1.5, and then, 1.5, which is the number, and then the word 5.
Okay, thank you.
And then I've got our last question comes from Rowie.
Okay, good. I did a couple of Zoom webinars, like training from Zoom, the company, and they recommended that there's some type of interrupt every 8 minutes to kind of keep people's attention. And polls are a good example of an interrupt, kind of interactive activity. And then I came up with a couple more. One of them is called the Wheel of Names, and I'll put that in chat. It's wheelofnames.com. So if you have everyone's name beforehand, you put it into the wheel, and it spins the wheel in order to select someone who's in the meeting. like a kind of Wheel of Fortune or roulette, Wheel of Fortune wheel. So it really keeps people on their toes because someone's going to get chosen and it's random, right? And if you look at the website, it's kind of fun. Like when someone it's got sound effects and stuff and kind of effects when the person gets chosen. So it's fun to select random people using the wheel of names. And then there's another one here. It's called, where's I just had it here. Pardon me. Yeah, it's called Picker Wheel. And it's similar, but just, it does like a yes, no, like Magic 8-Ball, right? So that's here, the Picker Wheel. And so you can ask the Picker Wheel a question. You know, if you're the meeting leader, you can say, okay, should we watch a video next? Let's check the Picker Wheel, and it answers randomly yes or no. So it adds a little fun and kind of an interrupt and a little activity to the meeting. It's another good way to avoid Zoom fatigue among your teams. So that's what I wanted to suggest. Thanks, everybody.
I really like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really helpful because I do department updates monthly, and then I always go the same order, and then I just make something up, like to just change it up. But this is more fun, you know. I gotta be more fun for my meetings.
And it keeps everyone like, oh my God, I might be next.
Yeah.
So with that, you guys want to take any like closing words, wrap things up, and then we'll.
I really just want to say thank you to all of our panelists. You've done a great job. I really, really appreciate it. We did good. And to all the attendees, it looks like we had a couple people drop off, but we still have 38 people hanging in there to the end. So thank you. I hope we were able to give you some new ideas, and you certainly have given us some new ideas. So thank you to everyone. Rick, thank you for hosting so well. Appreciate it.
So I want to thank you, Carol, and all our panelists, and also Margaret for all these like new ideas and new suggestions. So how to keep the Zoom world interesting and engaging for everyone. So thank you very much. And Rick for like facilitating this event. So now moving on, I just want to inform everyone about 2 other upcoming events that we are doing for from AITP. The next one is coming up on October 22nd. It's for 5G and Wi-Fi 6. So we all know that many organizations are currently, they are shifting to advanced wireless so that they can enable innovation and gain more competitive advantage. So if you're more interested in learning the trends in wireless communications, please join us on October 22nd. We'll have our panelist, Susan Hopfer, who will be like talking about Wi-Fi 6 and 5G trends. You can find more information on AITP LA websites, and you can also find information how to register. And then followed by that event in October, our next event is on November 19th. So we'll have a panel of chief technology officers who will be talking about trends in innovative and disruptive technologies. So feel free to sign up for these newsletters so that you can get more information about these.